Hello, I'm Jack Shagner.
And I'm Henry Peden. This program on Harford's heritage is about some of the county's grain mills.
A grain mill was also called a grist mill, as grist was a batch of grain ground for a particular farmer.
We will begin with the importance of grain to the early settlers. Karen Francis is our narrator.
In 1769, Bucks County millwright Isaiah Linton had acquired water rights along Little Gunpowder Falls, contiguous to a tract of land known as Jerusalem, and built the Upper Jericho sawmill. Over the next 3 years, using lumber produced by his facility, he constructed a large flour mill that was initially leased and later sold to miller David Lee. Lee's mill, later known as Jerusalem Mill, would grind grain for local farmers, but had as its primary function producing many barrels of flour, which were transported several miles south by horse and wagon to the port of Joppa. Thereafter, the barrels were shipped to Baltimore, then to the West Indies and other European destinations. Jerusalem Mill is an example of where a river powered a mill and an industry grew a village. This small settlement, though, is different from many other similar villages in Harford County, as it never flourished beyond limited geographical bounds. Thus, there was no economic incentive to tear down the old and to build the new. As a result, it's been lovingly preserved and today exists as a historic colonial settlement with weekend interpretive guides that explain the everyday life of our forefathers. The mill's location along Little Gunpowder Falls was strategic. This stream took its description from the water falling between the Piedmont Plateau and the coastal plain that would provide a reasonable drop in elevation over a relatively short distance. Over a span of 1/2 mile, the stream descended 20 feet, with the water in the adjacent head race only lowering about 4 feet. This resulted in a 16-foot head to turn water wheels. The head race passed under Jerusalem Road, heading to the front of the mill, and entered the right side into the basement, where 2 14-foot diameter pitch-black water wheels were located. Many years later, the wheels were replaced by water turbines, so Harford County-born artist Dave Duran was commissioned to paint on the wall a replica of what they originally looked like. The water wheels were inside of the mill, so water would not freeze in the buckets, and mill operations during most times of cold weather would be possible. Behind the mill is a small stone building with a fireplace, which, among other functions, served as a cooper's shop. A merchant mill, such as Jerusalem, produced more than a ton of flour each day that was shipped in barrels, each containing a standard weight of 196 pounds. The on-site sawmill produced the lumber for the wooden vessels, but coopers had to fashion the staves, hoops, and heads to make the barrels. Thereafter, the parts were assembled into a shipping container and delivered to the mill for filling. Early on, barrels of flour were delivered to the port of Joppa by wagons pulled by a team of horses. Building a wagon required the skills of both a wheelwright and a blacksmith, and by 1808, a blacksmith shop had been built across Jerusalem Road from the mill. It still exists today, along with a skeletal frame of the old wheelwright shop. With these facilities in place, local farmers not only brought their grain to the mill for processing, but could also have their plows repaired and animals shot by the blacksmith, have the cooper make the family a new wooden container, or get a wagon wheel rebuilt. This was the embryonic beginnings of a village that would continue to grow. Over a span of 3 generations of the Lee family, a handsome 2.5-story stuccoed stone and frame dwelling was built, which is currently owned by the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, with occupant Dr. Phyllis Pullen having a lifetime tenancy. On the lower level at one end is a large colonial kitchen where meals were once prepared. Adjacent to the home is a 2-story stone structure, with the lower portion containing a spring house and the upper level a smokehouse. The family's farm animals were sheltered in a nearby large bank barn that fronted on Jericho Road. Many years ago, the frame portion was destroyed by fire, leaving only bare stone walls standing. Recently, these walls have been restored, with future plans to convert the structure into a community meeting facility. Prominent in the front of the mill is a roadside historic marker that identifies the date David Lee began his mill operations. The marker also reports that the small stone building behind the mill was used for the manufacture of guns for the Revolutionary War. In fact, there used to exist signage attesting to this, but since has been removed, as there is no verifiable evidence this was true. It is believed, however, the building may have housed workers who produced walnut gun stocks that were shipped elsewhere and became part of a Revolutionary rifle. In addition to his routine grain processing operations, the miller often served as a source of the latest news. The vessels transporting his flour to Baltimore would occasionally deliver newspapers and broadsides back to Joppa, thence to Jerusalem. A farmer returning home from the mill with flour to feed his family would also bring bits of information to feed the political rumor mill. The miller also became aware of items that local farmers had for sale or barter, and likewise articles others were seeking. If such goods were available from Baltimore, arrangements could be made with the captain of a Baltimore-bound vessel to acquire the item. Thus, the miller in these cases functioned as a broker, earning a fee on the exchange. In 1840, the United States government recognized there was sufficient population in the area to establish a post office. It was designated Jerusalem Mills, acknowledging the existence of both a grist mill and a sawmill. James Herron was appointed the first postmaster, and this governmental function, along with the sale of general store items in the grist mill, provided additional reasons for a trip to the village. As the general store business increased, the Lee family built a new building, which around the year 1881 was leased to Samuel O. McCourtney, who operated it until his death in 1939. An historic wooden-covered bridge located along Jericho Road is a charming sight often explored by visitors to Jerusalem Mill Village. It crosses Little Gunpowder Falls, connecting Harford and Baltimore counties, and is the only remaining such structure in either county. The persistent rumors of it being haunted were attributed to the untrue account of slaves being hanged at the bridge during the Civil War. Unfortunately, this story continues to be circulated despite the fact the bridge was not built until December 1865, after the war had ended. Some believe, however, the ghost of a young girl lingers there.